body and interior repairs. We're going to talk about 5 repairs that you may have to perform to a motorhome brought to your service department. Specifically, we'll cover fiberglass repair, repairing vinyl delamination and tears, sealing repair, detecting and correcting water leaks, and repositioning interior modules. Let's get down to business right away and start with fiberglass repair. The materials you'll need are fiberglass cloth or fiberglass mat, resin and hardener, resin additive, and body filler. You should purchase all of the items locally. The fiberglass mat is what you'll use for all repairs that require a backing patch. Depending on the thickness of the original material you're repairing, you may need to use more than 1 layer of mat, probably 3 to 5 layers for the motorhome body. Fiberglass cloth is used when the most strength and least thickness is required. Actually, it is used more often than the mat because it is easier to work with. The combined resin and hardener is the material that hardens to make the mat or cloth hold its form. The resin we will use for our demonstration is epoxy resin. You may sometimes want to use an additive in the resin, depending on the particular repair. An additive can provide reinforcing strength to the resin or add body to it, which is desirable when working on vertical surfaces. Epoxy fillers can be used for 2 things. 1, for the complete repair of scratches and gouges, and 2, to finish more major repairs. Before you start your repair, make sure you read the material manufacturer's instructions, noting his cautions and warnings. The service area where you work should be at a normal room temperature and humidity, as specified on the manufacturer's instructions. If the room is too cool or humid, the fiberglass will probably take longer to cure, and the surface may absorb moisture and become tacky. The room should also be well ventilated, because prolonged exposure to resin fumes can irritate eyes and skin. Another thing you should do to protect your eyes and skin when working with fiberglass is wear a respirator, goggles, and a disposable shop coat, especially when grinding or sanding. A basic safety rule to always remember is, do not rub your face or eyes when working with fiberglass. Let's get on now with the repair procedure. First, inspect the damaged area closely by pushing in on the area immediately surrounding and underneath the damage to determine whether it is cosmetic or structural damage. What is the difference between the two? Cosmetic damages include surface scratches and gouges. Structural damages include cracks and small and large punctures. So, cosmetic damage is damage just to the surface. In contrast, structural damage is damage that penetrates, cuts through the entire thickness of the fiberglass. We'll explain cosmetic repairs first. For a scratch or gouge, route the area into a tapered groove, being careful not to cut through the fiberglass. Remember, wear goggles and a respirator when you cut, grind, or sand fiberglass. Next, hand sand the area to remove the flaky edges and to feather the painted surface back about 1/2 inch beyond the damage. Clean the area with a dry cloth or air. Do not, however, wipe the surface with a solvent. After cleaning the repair area, mix enough epoxy filler to fill in the gouge or scratch. Follow the manufacturer's instructions when you mix the filler. Depending on the proportions of resin and hardener, the filler will harden within different amounts of time. To be sure it won't harden before you've filled in the damage, you may want to mix a test batch. Time it to see how long it takes to harden, and then mix the batch you're going to work with. Now apply the filler to the damage. Make sure you remove any air bubbles. Also, to allow for shrinkage, apply enough filler for it to extend above the original surface. After the filler has set, first power sand it with medium grit sandpaper. Then fine sand it until it is smooth and even with the original surface. Then the repair is complete and the area is ready for painting. Let's talk about structural repairs now. Repairing cracks and fractures is more involved than cosmetic repairs. What we're going to do is apply alternating layers of mat and resin to the underside of the repair until the repair matches the thickness of the original fiberglass. First, you must prepare the underside of the fiberglass, so sand it with a power sander and then sand the area by hand with finer sandpaper. Then, with a tapered bit or saber saw, remove all rough edges and flaking. Incidentally, if you're repairing a crack, you should make the crack at least 1/8 inch wide. Clean the area with air. Now, cut the required pieces of fiberglass mat large enough to extend 2 inches beyond the edges of the repair area. If the damage has caused the panel on which you're working to become misaligned, realign it with C-clamps, a piece of wood, or other necessary hardware. Next, from the right side of the panel, tape the damaged area with masking tape, as you see being done here. This will prevent resin from sagging through the opening. Now you're at the point when you should mix the resin. Structural repairs usually require more time for applying the resin than you need for cosmetic repairs. So mix the batch of resin so that it doesn't harden too soon. Again, you may want to make a trial batch. Once the resin's mixed, apply a coat of it to the surface where you're making the repair, as you see done here. Next, place 1 layer of the mat or cloth over the damaged area and saturate the mat with the resin using a dabbing motion. Separately, apply each remaining layers of matting and resin in the same manner, saturating the mat with the resin. During the whole process, you should work quickly but carefully so that you complete all of the layers before the resin begins to harden. After you have applied all the layers, let the resin harden completely before completing the repair. The next part of the repair is actually a cosmetic repair, and it is done on the right side of the panel. What we're going to do is fill in the repair area so that its surface matches the surface of the original panel. Therefore, you must first prepare the surface by rough sanding it with 80 grit sandpaper. Taper the edges of the repaired hole with a router. Sand the surface again, this time with fine sandpaper. Clean the repair area with air. Remember, don't wipe the surface with a solvent. Mix the epoxy filler and work it into the repair area, being careful to fill all voids and remove all large air bubbles. Apply enough filler for it to extend above the original surface to allow for shrinkage. Here you see the complete coat of filler. Let it harden thoroughly before you power sand it with medium grit sandpaper. Then fine sand the filler until it's smooth and even with the original surface. If the sanded filler is heavily pockmarked and porous, you should apply a second layer of filler over the first one. Let the layer dry, sand it, and the structural fiberglass repair is just about complete. The only things left to be done are to spot prime it, apply glazing putty, sand it, paint it, and then the repair is done. If you encounter any problems in the procedures we described, the most likely one is that the fiberglass becomes tacky. As mentioned before, working in a too cool or humid area can cause the fiberglass to absorb moisture and become tacky. It can also become tacky if the amount of hardener used was not correct. The way to correct it is to first try to dry out the area with heat lamps. Then peel or scrape off the top surface or sand it off with a power sander. Next, reapply the layers of resin you need to complete the job. There is one final thing about fiberglass repairs. If a major part of a fiberglass body panel is damaged, don't try to repair it. Instead, just replace the entire panel. We'll move on now to repairing vinyl delamination and tears. For these repairs, it's recommended that you use the 3M products that we mention or the equivalents. You can buy them from your local supplier. An important thing to remember is that there should be no open flames in your work area when you're working with these materials because they are flammable. The best way to correct a partial delamination, such as a peeled corner, is to make it into a complete delamination. That is, to completely remove the vinyl from the surface to which it is applied. We suggest doing this because if one section of vinyl has started to separate from its undersurface, the rest could start to do so soon. To remove the vinyl easily, you may want to heat the area with a heat gun, which will soften the glue. This is how you repair delaminated vinyl. First, clean both surfaces. Use 3M's number 2 solvent for a complete delamination and number 707 degreaser for a partial delamination. After letting the solvent dry for 30 minutes, apply contact cement to both surfaces. You should use 3M's Scotch Grip number 2210 contact cement for complete delaminations, letting it dry for 20 to 30 minutes. For partial delaminations, you can use 3M's number 77 contact cement, which has to dry for only 5 minutes. After the cement sets, carefully place the vinyl in place and apply strong hand pressure across its entire surface. If there happens to be any cement overrun, just wipe it off with some solvent. If you have a tear to replace, it is better and neater to remove or delaminate the entire piece than patching it. Especially, don't patch a small area such as an overhead cabinet door. Just replace the entire piece of vinyl. If, however, for some reason you do decide to patch a tear, this is what you do. First, lay a piece of new vinyl that is larger than the tear over the torn area. Align the grain of the new and old vinyl as well as you can, realizing that they will not match perfectly. Then cut through both layers to make the new patch and cut out the area you're replacing. Remove the torn patch. Then apply number 77 contact cement to the new patch. Finally, place the patch in place and smooth the vinyl. The cushion wall ceiling is repaired in basically the same manner. However, first, cement the piece of cushion wall that you're using for the repair to a piece of Upson board or heavy cardboard. You can procure both the Congolium cushion wall and Upson board locally. Allow the cement to set for 24 hours, and then carefully pull apart the cushion wall and Upson board. You do this in order to make the repair patch the same thickness as the damaged patch you'll remove. First of all, with an erasable pencil and ruler, lightly draw a square around the damage. Extend the lines of each side far enough so that they will extend beyond the new piece of cushion wall when it's placed over the damage. These lines will help you locate the damage when it's covered with the cushion wall. Now, drawing over the patch, connect the lines on the ceiling so that they form a square the same size as the one you drew on the ceiling. The square will tell you exactly where the damage is located under the patch. Now, cut through both layers at a 90-degree angle. Make the cut outside the perimeter of the square. Remove the taped-on patch. Next, with a knife blade, get under the edge of the damaged area to remove the patch. Now you have to put in the ceiling a backing surface for the patch. So, cut a piece of Upson board or heavy cardboard to about 4 inches longer and about 1 inch more narrow than the opening in the ceiling. Cut a piece of lightweight wood to the same size. Then, as you see done here, thread a piece of thin wire through the center of the wood and Upson board. Then back through the upson board and wood so that the two are connected. Put cement on the side of the backing that faces the board and put the backing through the opening in the ceiling. Center the spot where the backing is threaded in the opening. To make sure the backing sets securely against the ceiling, push the board up to the ceiling and twist the wire so that the board and backing pull tightly against each other. That should set the backing in place. Remove the board and wire and let the cement on the backing dry. Meanwhile, with fine sandpaper, sand the edges of the cushion wall patch. Coat the patch with adhesive and place it firmly in the cutout area. Erase the marking lines. Finally, apply Congolium SU91 seam sealer to the seams with a cotton-tipped swab. Let the repair dry several hours. The sealer will fuse the sections of cushion wall. And that's how to repair the ceiling. Now, how do you detect and repair water leaks? The best procedure for locating a leak is to use the microsonic leak detector. The detector has two parts, a microsonic sound emitter and a sound detector. The emitter sends out sound waves that pass through openings. The detector senses the waves only at the openings. So, with the vehicle completely closed up, the spots where the detector picks up a sound would be the source of a leak. Therefore, to find the leak, place the sound emitter in the motor home. On the kitchen floor is a good spot. Turn on the emitter. Make sure all the windows are closed. Go outside and close the door. Turn on the detector and start your search in the area where you suspect the leak is located. From there, move around the vehicle until you locate the leak source. You cannot use this detector, however, soon after the motorhome has been washed or been in a rainstorm. The water tends to fill the areas that need repair, and the detector will not pick up leaks in those spots. If a microsonic leak detector is not available, you can locate leaks by spraying high-pressure water into possible leakage areas. You can correct most leaks by properly applying the correct sealant. The keys to making sure the sealant adheres are 1, to make sure all surfaces are clean, and 2, to be sure the motorhome's skin temperature is at the very minimum 65 degrees. If the temperature is too low, the sealant will not adhere. If necessary, use a heat gun or lamp to maintain the correct temperature. What do you do if the leak is at the windshield? First, inspect the windshield rubber seal. If the seal is out of position, use installer tool J2189 to reposition it. Where the seal needs repositioning, hook one end of the tool in the glass groove of the seal, as you see here, and move the tool around the glass to force the outer lip of the seal over the edge of the glass. Then, thread the end of the rubber insert through the handle and loop of the tool. Push the tool loop and end of the insert into the groove of the seal and feed in the rubber insert. However, if the windshield seal is okay, apply clear pumpable sealant, part number 718254 or the equivalent, between the lip of the seal and the seal lip at the opening flange. Remember to have the surfaces clean and at least 65 degrees. For leaks at a side window, you should use a different sealant, part number 718255. You should also use this sealant to correct roof seam leaks and leaks at the bathroom or range vent caps. To correct a leak at a wheel well, use a dark sealant, part number 718253 or its equivalent. This is an area where you will especially have to make sure the surfaces are clean before applying the sealant. Use the dark sealant at the step riser too. First, remove the step riser and clean the splash shield and the mating surfaces. Then, apply the sealant to those surfaces and reinstall the riser. If you detect a leak at the roof-mounted air conditioning plenum chamber, Apply cord-type strip caulking to the area. You can purchase the caulking locally. One of the most common leakage areas is at the door, usually caused by an improper fit. To adjust the door's fit, open the door to a 90-degree angle to the body of the motorhome. Then, as you see done here, insert a porta-power, a hydraulic ram, between the door seal flange and the door jamb at the appropriate point. Expand the porta-power slightly, about 1 inch should do, still keeping the door at a 90-degree angle to the body. Then, check the fit and repeat the process if it's necessary. To prevent adjusting the curvature of the door too much, it is important that you expand the porta-power just a little at a time. There's one more thing to mention about leaks: how to clean up excess or run-over sealant. The best thing to do is to rub the excess with mineral spirits. Continue rubbing until the sealant has been dissolved and can be wiped away. The final repair we're going to discuss is repositioning interior modules that have become misaligned, especially the closet drawer module and the bathroom module. To realign a particular module, use a porta-power. Extend the porta-power slowly, a slight bit at a time, until the module becomes plumb. In this diagram, the red dots indicate the closet drawer module's attachment points. If you are repositioning this module or another module, rescrew the module at the appropriate points after you make the unit plumb. For additional information concerning motorhome body and interior repairs, consult your service manual and service bulletins.